Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a great video. We're going to teach you how to generate candidates. All right, it's a pretty big topic. Alex, where would you kind of start if you're generating candidates for a particular search?
Well, you know, I like to go easy targets, easy prey, all right? So I will target companies that they are struggling a little bit, you know? And for struggling, I mean companies that maybe have gone through change of management, merging or acquisitions.
Maybe some redundancies.
Some redundancy as well, right? Yeah. So if you're if you are in tune with your market, you should know a little bit the trends, you know, who's hiring, who's firing. And I think that's a great place to start, you know. Of course, I think it's way easier to attract candidates from companies that are a little bit unstable at the moment versus companies that are doing really well. Usually companies that are doing really well, employees are happy, satisfied, well paid. So it's just more difficult to, you know, convince them to move, and it's even difficult to convince them to have a chat with a recruiter if you're super happy.
Yeah.
You know, most of the time you don't want to hang out with people like us, right?
Hard to believe, but true. Yeah.
Well, Matt, I'm the kind of guy that wants to hire top performers, right? So what if I don't like hiring candidates that come from companies that are a little bit stable, not doing well? I want, I think in a reference point to football these days, the Jude Bellingham of the situation.
Yeah, okay, you want a headhunt from Real Madrid.
I want a headhunt from Real Madrid. I want to get the star player to join my company. How can I do that?
Well, I think, you know, this is not to say that, I mean, within the companies that are struggling or whatever, you can still find some stars, right?
Of course,
for sure.
Yeah.
But a lot of clients will want, and they tell us, don't they? They want a candidate who works for one of the big brands in their market. And, you know, it's not easy to get these people to move because often they're working for great companies, and if they're a real top performer in that business, they're going to be well looked after. And I think really there's two ways really to do it. One is, you've got that unicorn job that's just sensational, right? Or maybe they're looking to give someone a decent step up in their career without the experience. And you can use that job to sometimes tempt really good candidates from these fantastic companies into a conversation with you. Realistically, though, if you really want to consistently generate really top-level candidates, it's a long game. It's a long game. You have to build your reputation, your network in the market, and start having conversations with people or start getting them to speak to you, even when they're not looking, right? And I think then eventually you start to find out what might be their drivers, what might cause them to have an interview or to look around, and then maybe you can start to fish them out, I think, right? It's not easy.
So you think just sending those spam emails on LinkedIn doesn't cut it anymore to build those relationships with those star players?
It does not. I don't know. You've been doing it wrong, mate.
You gotta take them out for dinners and lunches for a lot of times and build those relationships, do you?
That's it. You got to understand your market and play the long game a little bit.
Really? Wow. Okay. I thought that actually spamming candidates on LinkedIn was the way to go.
No.
All right. Maybe because I don't work at Robert Waters. That's.
What about, one question I have is, because this really changed, and especially in the Japan market, but a lot of companies, when we first came to Japan, would do traditional headhunting. So they would do name collecting, right? They'd call companies, they'd find out people's names, they would call back again, speak to those people, try and convince them to have a meeting. Very cold calling and high activity approach. What do you think? Is it still relevant in this day and age?
But personally, I don't think it's that relevant anymore. I think the time that you have to invest just doing the first part, actually the name collecting, it's just not worth the investment unless, again, it's like a very niche, high-level retain roles. I think, I don't know, I wouldn't do it. I think nowadays most of the candidates, well, they're not every day in the office.
I think that's the key, right? I think 10 years ago in this market, it was really valuable. And everybody was in the office every day. But actually, if you cold call the office now,
the chances of that person being there are...
It's pretty low.
It's pretty low.
It's pretty low. So it makes it even less productive as a source. I think you're right, for a really niche, high-level role, you may want to call in and directly headhunt people for sure.
Of course, if you're working for a decent firm that give you decent resources, I think you can get candidates, either digitally or through referral, which I think is actually the best way of generating high quality candidates at a higher volume as well, you know. I think, referrals is something that is I'm not saying misunderstood, but really undervalued, A lot of people think that you cannot get many referrals, or you can only get them from candidates that you place.
Yep.
I have to disagree with that.
Yeah,
I think if you do incorporate the referral question, hey, do you have any friend? At any stage of the process, when you screen the candidate, when you sell them a job, when you arrange an interview, if you actually really incorporate that into your recruitment methodology, I used to get fairly easy, like 1 or 2 candidates a week just through referrals, just because, again, you do it methodically at every call.
Yeah, I think that's it. I always like that little technique where, when you're calling a candidate to pitch them a job, right?
Yeah.
And the candidate says to you, hey, I'm actually not a mover now. And, you should say to them, okay, well, listen, it is a really fantastic job, and you may know somebody who might be a good fit for this position. Let me just tell you about the role anyway, and you can tell me if you know anybody. You pitch the job, and do you know what? Quite a lot of the time at the end of that call, the guy who wasn't a mover at the beginning then says, actually, I might be interested in that myself.
Yeah.
And if not, then you're going to get some referrals hopefully anyway,
Yep.
right? And I think that really works. So that's quite a nice little technique you should use when somebody says they're not a mover, to either get the buy-in from the person you're speaking to or to generate referrals, which are the best source of candidates.
The best source of candidates, absolutely. I think another source of candidate is a little bit undervalued is reference checks. Unfortunately, reference check is part of the recruitment process. A lot of recruiters, they see it as an admin task, right? Okay, I have to do a reference check. It's a waste of time, basically, right? I disagree with it. I think, first of all, because there's a lot of positive actually in evaluating the candidate from a different perspective, it gives you, just better opportunity to sell the candidate. But also, again, remember, you're speaking to, most of the time, the referees are a subordinate, a peer, or a superior,
boss.
right?
Yeah.
And guess what? All these 3 people, they do the same profession as your candidate, or they could be a client, right? These are very, very good source of high quality candidates.
Hey, listen, just an innocent question at the end, and once you've completed the reference check, how about you? How are you feeling about your own position right now? Would you potentially be interested in looking at other opportunities? And you get a lot of yeses at that point.
You pretty much get I'm not saying all yeses, but you get like 8 out of 10. I think they would be interested in having a casual conversation with you and see what is around, what's available on the market, especially because you already enter the conversation with a good reputation, because you're helping, like a friend or somebody that worked with a person landing a job or getting close to landing a job. So you already position yourself as a high quality recruiter, a recruiter that knows the market, and a recruiter that is making placements, basically, right?
Yeah.
So last one, what do you think between digital versus in person, right? Do you generate more candidates, you think, by again having that long-term game and meeting candidates, asking for referrals, or do you think digitally, so LinkedIn and job boards specifically for the Japan market is better?
I think the volume comes from the digital.
Yep.
And the quality, the cream, comes from that kind of face-to-face long game. Right?
Yeah.
That's why you should do both. So I think high activity digitally, especially if you're in a company like ours, which is kind of mid-level,
lots of resources.
Use those and maximize those, but don't neglect the higher end, the longer game, where you're going to generate some candidates that probably your competitors don't have. And that's the benefit of that other side, is the digital side. Everybody has access to it pretty much. But you can generate some exclusive candidates from referrals, reference checks, building relationships, and that's the key.